Okay guys, so this is going to be a big project. I'm working on a Game of Thrones doll. I'm doing Tyrion Lannister. So of course I needed to do some special things to be able to put this together. And the head I started with is supposed to be Jeff Bridges from Tron as Kevin Flynn. So I'm going to work with this head and I'll have to Dremel it to get Tyrion out of this doll. But I also needed to use a different body, and I'm using, I think it's a Patsy doll. And so this is the body I'm using. I'm not far enough back, but you can see the size of the doll's body, the head. I'll correct the coloring, I'll get everything right there. And I also had to change out her hands because, as you can see, her hands are little girl hands, a little too girly for a man. So I'm going to be replacing the hands with this. And this will also need to be dremeled out in there so that the hands will fit, and by the end it will look more appropriate to Tyrion Lannister's proportions and size. So that is the project I'm working on, and the first thing I'll do is work on his face to get his features to look more like Tyrion's. Okay, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to take some just basic acetone that you can get pretty much anywhere at the grocery store, beauty supply store, whatever, and cotton swabs. Now I use your regular Q-tip cotton swabs because for me they're the most sturdy and they have the best cotton on the end. So I don't really like to go with the cheapy ones. I like to go full on good stuff, good quality ones. And they last a long time, so why not? You can get them in the big packs. All I'm doing right now is just removing the factory paint and the original paint to the doll and any kind of shiny, like the head had a little bit of shininess, so I'm just going to go ahead and take all that off. Okay, so this is Peter Dinklage. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, which is funny because he's like absolutely one of my favorite actors. I adore this guy. And he has, let's look at the doll really quick. So we're looking at his face, and if you look at the doll, and the lighting isn't great right here, but I have it picked up on my laptop. But he has some cuts right here on his face. So these are some of the things you want to look for when you're doing a doll. Like, how can I get this doll to match this face? And some of the things that you can look for, and I got lucky here, is that he has these little cuts here on the sides of his face, just like he does. So when I'm looking at it, there's only a couple of changes that I'm going to need to make to this doll's face, which is really exciting for me, because you have to consider his forehead is not an issue. We're going to pull that forward, so you're not going to see his hair here is all in his face, so that'll be pulled forward. His nose is a little bit, needs to be shortened a little bit. So I'll do that with the Dremel. And then I'll probably fill out his lips a little bit because he's got nice full bottom lip and this doll doesn't. So he's going to need a fuller lip and a shorter nose. Other than that, his facial sculpt is actually going to work out pretty nicely. So after examining that and what I need, I'm going to go ahead and Dremel off that tip of the nose, and I might even just use a file for that because it's such a small job. Okay, to file down his nose, because I've decided that this doll does not need a Dremel, and I can use shading to enhance the width of the nose a little bit because this nose is a little bit thin, so I'm pretty sure I can just use some very good shading to get his width to look better, and the profile's not a problem. So it's just basically shortening the tip. So I'm going to use just a file from Sally's Beauty or anywhere else that you might be able to find a nice nail file that's got good grit on it. And then I'm going to use this to smooth it out, which is just a basic polar block. It's also from Sally's. And the same thing here, I'm going to smooth it out with this polishing. So basically I'm using nail things to be able to do this. So let's go ahead and just, all I'm going to do, and I don't want to scratch any other part of the face, I just want to shorten that tip. So you're just going to, let me see if I can get you to see it. You're just going to file right up underneath that nose to shorten it. Very minimal work in here when you're doing this. I mean, it's literally a very small job on the resculpting of this part. So I'm already pretty much done. I'll just take the little buffer and make sure that I smooth it out. But really, honestly, it's a tiny little job, and I've already shortened his nose. I might could go a little bit more, but there's also going to be shading there too. I'm pretty happy with it. It doesn't look like much, but that little bit will help. Okay, the next part is I want a fuller bottom lip, and this it's not too bad. I might be able to do it with paint actually, now that I look at it from the side, because see, he's kind of got a, I think I'm going to just leave that alone. I was going to fill it out, but I don't need to. So never mind on that. I think paint's going to work on that. So I'm just going to make sure that I take some acetone to his nose and get that all smoothed out. Okay, so I've sprayed him with the Mr. Super Clear, and he's drying, so I can go ahead and put this down. I kind of protected my nails too, because I don't want to get that all over my hands or my nails. Gloves would be nice. I have gloves somewhere, but I didn't go get them. I'm not worried about it getting on him now. I just want to make sure that it's nice, and it's got to dry, so let's let that dry. For shading, I like it's the little tricks of the trade. This broke off from my makeup eyeshadow brush. It's an e.l.f. brush, and I use this a lot for shading. So I have that, and I also have this little brush, and this is also just little makeup brushes that I've collected along the way, just the little cheapy ones that sometimes come with the products, but I don't like to use them on me. So these are some of my shading tools, and this one's good for getting around the edges of the nose. This one's good for larger areas. So I'm going to start with the bigger one, and here's my face. So let's go. Looking at his face, I want to pull this part in a little bit, and I'm going to do that starting with the burnt sienna shade. So I'm going to go with that little, it's like a brown color, and the first thing I do is I get it off on my brush, and then I sort of wipe it a little of the excess on my hand, and I just start dabbing that in right where I want it. So, and the way that you keep these shades in is by spraying them again. So we'll seal it several times as we create layers. So here goes the first layer, and I'll just go ahead and speed up the film more than likely so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, at this point, I'm going to look him over, smooth him down, and then I'm going to spray him again so I can get my first layer of color to stay where it is. Okay, I'm going to go with my next color, which is going to be the red iron oxide shade, which is this. And this stuff is super powerful. So when working with this, just keep in mind that it's going to come off very strong and you don't need very much. Also, I'm going to be using the red iron oxide tint, which kind of looks like a peachy color, to do some highlights. So let me grab that one first. It looks like that on my brush. I'm just gonna kind of like dab it a little bit so it's not too much. And again, I'm gonna speed up the film so you can see what I'm doing quickly.